Good morning and welcome to the show. Now, before I begin, some apologies. Well, two apologies actually. Number one, I'm not recording in my usual environment. I'm not going to say where I'm recording. Just in case you notice the difference in sound quality, that's the echo. And then, second of all, get ready for more of these kinds of episodes because today is I'm riffing on social media managers. Basically, I'm calling them up on a couple of things. And I have a few other episodes lined up with, me calling out people in other professions. That's because as my profile grows over the internet, as the podcast starts reaching a wider audience, as I'm talking to more people and putting up more content in different spaces, I'm having a lot of people reach out to me because they want to do business with me. And the way that they go about doing this shows why the things that we talk about over here on the podcast, how best to sell, how best to start business conversations, how to handle negotiations, that sort of things. So those sorts of things, how to handle networking. It shows the reason why this gospel is really important. So recently, someone sent me an unsolicited WhatsApp message. Now, in traditional sales, for those of you who are new to the show, if you hear the phrase unsolicited, it basically just means that you were minding your business and you didn't ask for anything. So people reach out to you cold, out of the blue. You don't know who they are. They probably don't know who you are, and there has been no prior context between you guys, whether a personal context or a business context. So that's what makes the difference between an unsolicited or a cold outreach and solicited outreach. So when it's totally cold, there has been no prior contact or no prior context between both of you guys. So this was unsolicited. There are some people who say that all forms of unsolicited marketing are not effective. I have a different point of view. That's why, for those of you who've been listening from the beginning, you remember the series that I did on why it's good to talk to strangers and how to go about initiating business conversations with strangers. So I think unsolicited outreach, I think is good. We should be talking to strangers. The problem is a lot of people don't do it the right way, and so they end up being ineffective. So this WhatsApp message, it went something like this. Sir, I don't know if you are in need of someone that will handle your Instagram page. So excuse me. I'll be very grateful if you let me handle your page. So that was the summary of the message. Now, because I'm a hardcore sales advocate, I always try to let people down easy because I know that it can be really tough trying to approach people for new business. So whenever people reach out to me, I'm not rude and I'm not curt. I always try and tell people in my own personal circles to do the same. Like I can remember once when someone from the cable company called my mom, and I thought she was rather harsh with the person. And so after the call, I just told her, like, hey, Mom, you don't have to be so harsh on these people. They're just trying to make a living. That's what their boss told them to do. And, besides, that I do pretty much the same thing. That's how I make a living, talking to strangers. And so now she's a lot more polite with these people, whether it's the cable company or people from the bank or customer service people or whatever. So I always try to be nice to these people. So I wasn't rude to her. So, like I said, lots of people have been reaching out to me, and then of course, a lot of times I don't require these services, but I always try and give the person some props. I try to commend them, first of all, for being courageous to go about and look for new people to talk to about their products and their services, because it's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. And let's look at things in the larger scheme of things. If we didn't have people doing these sorts of things and looking for new audiences for products or services, then all the wonderful things that we have in life that we enjoy, we wouldn't have them. For Nigerians, we wouldn't have DSTV because there would have been no salesperson who would have taken the initiative to reach out to the Nigerian market to try and sell this thing. There would be no Coca-Cola because the boys and girls behind Coke wouldn't have bothered broaching out into new markets. And then we also wouldn't have the life-saving, or rather the life-changing medications that we have right now on the continent. Whether it's, I hear there's going to be a new malaria vaccine rolled out. And so if not for people like brave salesmen who reach out there, malaria vaccines, quinine, whatever good thing you can ascribe to modern medicine, we wouldn't have it. So sales is a necessary profession. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so my reply was something like this. So, sorry, I'm not looking for a social media manager at the moment, but I'm curious. One, how did you find me? And two, what exactly do you think I need to improve on my page? Now, I'm sure people who try to prospect like this, who try to look for business this way, are used to being ignored. So apart from me giving them props, I figured if I send an actual reply, that will it's much more polite, it's much more human, it's much more, I think it's better that way to give an actual reply since these people are used to being ignored, blocked, or not listened to. Anyway, so how do you guys think this person responded to my reply? The answer is going to surprise you. They went through all this trouble, they sent this message. I'm sure they sent to other people as well. And one person responds, that is me. And actually, they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything with my response. So since I started putting, like I mentioned earlier, since I started with the podcast, the blog, video content on Instagram, TikTok, things like that, I've noticed that these people who send out these messages, I don't think they're prepared for having a conversation. It's like they send out these things and the only scenario that they anticipate is yes or no. That the person is going to say yes and then pay them money so that they can manage the social media account or whatever social media services that they have. Or the person is going to say no and then ignore them. So if you never answer yes to these things, it's like they're not ready for a conversation. So if it's a yes, they launch straight into the money conversation and they start. They just go straight into the money conversation, and if you just humor them and go along with this conversation, you get the sense that they're trying to limit. How do I put it? They're trying to limit how much services that they provide, and then maximize the most amount of money that they can get. And that is for when you respond yes to these people. If you don't believe me, next time somebody hits you up, especially if you're in the wedding and event space, one of these people sends you these kinds of messages, social media management, just say, yes, I'm interested. And you see that that's the next thing that they're going to launch into. Okay, yes, these are the packages we have, this, that. So if the answer is anything other than a yes, like I mentioned, they don't respond. And I presume that what they do is they move on to spam the next person. Like, okay, this guy didn't respond. Who else can I send these messages to? Now, let's assume that you're listening to this podcast and maybe this is how you've been doing things, using WhatsApp, using Instagram DM, and using Twitter and email to send out these messages and try to look for customers. So if this is how you've done things in the past, realize right now that there is a better way to do things. Now, remember, I'm not saying that social media managers are prone to this. It just happens that I receive this message from a lot of social media managers, but I'm still going to do series on similar messages that I receive from people in the other professions. Now, what are the things that you can do better? First of all, you have to be prepared to have a conversation. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that my Instagram handle is called Sales Conversations. And the reason why I picked that name was I'm trying to raise the awareness that the game of sales and selling is just about having conversations, whether you're face to face with a person or whether you guys are over a Zoom link or you guys are behind a keyboard sending emails. If you think of sales as a conversation, then you are going to do a whole lot better, and you're going to be prepared for the the improvisation that happens during conversations. If you think of sales as the pitch, the presentation, that magic thing that you're going to copy and paste, you're going to get caught off guard a lot of times because you'll do your copy and paste and send to 150 people and 148 will ignore. 2 people will respond with anything other than a yes, and you won't know how to move the conversation along. So first of all, be ready for a conversation. Think of sales as a conversation. So if they answer yes, that they need your services, then the next line of conversation that you should move into is not your prices and packages. The conversation you should be having should be about the person's business needs. So if I respond, it's not just about sending me your packages and all whatnot. You need to find out about what my business needs are, the kinds of communities that I'm trying to build on social media, the kind of cadences that I already have with my community. Do I reach out to them daily? Do I reach out to them weekly? The kinds of messaging I prefer, the kind of brand positioning that I'm looking at, all these sorts of things. These are the sorts of questions that you should ask me if you're a social media manager and any other person who is trying to sell your social media social media, what should I call it? Anyway, your social media management packages. These are the conversations that you should be having. It shouldn't be you send out the message, they say yes, and then next thing you just go straight to, I charge 3,500 for 6 weekly posts. How do you know that that is what I need, that I need 6 weekly posts? How do you know that 6 weekly posts are going to be enough to achieve my business aims? And how do you know if 6 weekly posts is going to be effective for the kinds of ideas that I have regarding building a brand? That's the reason why you should be prepared for a conversation, and these are the kinds of things that you should be asking. If the person says yes, that they need your services, then it's not straight to price. Ask some questions. Understand how they use social media now, what they want to use social media for, the community or the lack of community that they have, the kind of messaging that they want to employ, how they want to position their brand, all kinds of things. There are lots of things that you guys can be having conversations over. For those of you who are social media managers listening to this post, it's your profession, so you know what is more important when it comes to managing people's pages than I do. So you start a conversation this way. The person is going to assume that you are a consummate professional. The reason why they will assume that you're a professional is because everybody else who sends this kind of messages, is there anybody managing your page? I would like to manage your page. When you reply yes, the next thing that the person sends is, I charge 3,500 for 6 weekly posts. That is how everybody is responding. And if you respond the same way, how are you going to stand out as a social media management professional? You're not. You're just commoditizing yourself. It's going to become like pricing Gary or pricing beans in the market. Because really, if you do this, if you're not convinced that it makes you sound like a peddler, on this end, how am I supposed to know which is a better deal when all of you send the response that you charge 3,500 for 6 weekly posts? Maybe somebody else might try to be ambitious with the pricing, and then they might charge 4,000 naira for 8 weekly posts. How am I supposed to know the difference? And social media managers listening to this podcast, how are people supposed to know the difference when you guys are commoditizing yourself? The person says yes, and the next thing is, I charge 3,500 for 6 weekly posts. I charge 4,000 for 8 weekly posts. Or I charge 10K for 15 posts. Do you really expect me or the other people that you're sending this message to start doing calculations on the cost per post? It's ridiculous. And that's what you guys are reducing yourself to when it comes to selecting social media managers. You guys go on the rant all over Instagram and all the other channels talking about how people don't appreciate social media managers. The reason why people don't appreciate social media managers and don't realize that there's a need for it is because of the ways that you guys are going about selling your services. You guys are cheapening and commoditizing yourself. Get ready to have a conversation and have the kind of business conversations that will give you a rational basis for saying that, okay, with all the things that we've discussed, I think these are the kind of posts that we should create. This is the kind of cadence we should be looking for. And with this in mind, the rates that we have are X thousand naira for X thousand whatever, and this is what we think is adequate for you. Outside of that, it's just like I've gone into the market and I'm trying to buy Gary or buy groundnuts. I'm looking at this groundnut over here, and the Mudu is $900, and I'm looking at this groundnut over here, and the Mudu is $850, and that's all I have to go on. So you guys, stop commoditizing yourselves. Because all these things that go on, this is the very definition of commoditization of services. You can't compete effectively as a commodity. So one more question I'd like to ask is, for social media managers, why do you guys keep assuming that content production is the biggest problem that business owners have? For some people, yeah, that might be a problem. But my assumption is that social media management should include things like moderation, community engagement, maybe advice on running social media advertisements and promotions. So there's a whole lot that goes into it, and content production shouldn't be your first default. 6,005 for 3,500 for 6 posts or whatever. I mean, how much it is that you guys charge. You can have a look at somebody's handle and see that, oh, content production, absolutely not a problem. What needs to be tweaked is their messaging, and maybe they need some advice around community engagement. Come up with a strategy for how to engage with the people who reach out to them, or the inquiries that come in. Sometimes that is what people need. It's not everybody that needs 6 weekly posts or 10 weekly posts or 20 weekly posts or whatever it is that you're selling. So, and also another thing for social media managers, when the average business person or self-employed person like me, when we think of social media engagement, we are not just thinking of content, we are also thinking about revenue. So when a wedding planner or a wedding photographer sets up an Instagram handle, they are thinking about revenue primarily. Now, one reason why I'm bringing this up for social media managers in particular is because some social media managers don't think that they should be responsible for sales. They don't think should be responsible for revenue. I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying that most people you're reaching out to, that when they think social media management, they are thinking revenue that comes in. And if you don't think you are responsible for revenue, then it's a conversation that you need to have early when you reach out. When the person says yes, it's a conversation that you need to have, apart from all the things that we spoke about regarding community moderation, branding, and all whatnot. You also need to have those conversations. Do you think I should be, are you looking for somebody who's going to be responsible for driving sales and revenue? Because if not, that's not a service that I provide. It's something you need to put it out front immediately, so that if those are the expectations that the photographer or the wedding planner has, they can move on and look for somebody else. Rather than you take the job, and then after they've paid the 3,500 for 6 posts or whatever, they do that for 2 or 3 months, and then they're unhappy with you because they're not getting any revenue, and then you guys are having that quarrel. So if you don't have these kinds of conversations, you're going to be terminated after 2 or 3 months, because the person is going to think, look, since I hired you to be my social media manager, my sales have not improved. And then you guys are going to start quarreling over what is the purpose of social media management, when it's a conversation that you should have had from the beginning. Now look, Oga, Madam, are you looking for someone to just manage your page, build engagement, or are you thinking about revenue? Are you thinking about sales? Because I don't handle sales. This is what I handle. So, apart from being ready for a conversation, and I hope you guys, social media managers, can appreciate, or rather can get a sense of ways in which the conversations could flow. You also need to have some business insights ready when you reach out to people, because these insights will be a way to show the value of your service. Because if you notice in my response, I asked, what exactly do you think I should change with my Instagram handle? The reason why I did so is because I get a lot of outreach from social media managers, and so I'm thinking I must be doing something terribly wrong for all these people to be reaching out. Because for me, content production isn't a problem, because I post almost daily. The podcast is almost at the daily sequence. I think right now we should be close to 430 episodes, I think. I'll have to go back and check. I stopped numbering it because it was just becoming too much of a slog to go and figure out, okay, what was the last episode number? Is everything lining up? So I'm blogging every day. I'm putting out these episodes 4 or 5 times a week. So content production isn't a problem. But for some reason, these social media managers keep reaching out. So maybe there's something wrong with what it is that I'm doing. So if she had paid attention and had given an answer, she could have pointed out flaws in my posts. She could have pointed out flaws in my strategy. And I guess this must be some really basic things, because for all the social media managers to keep reaching out, I'm sure there's something I could be, I must be able to do better. Because there's something that is clearly obvious that they can see, but I can't see because I'm not a social media manager, and that's not my business. All I do is sales. So when you have business insights around these sorts of things, that, oh, I've had a look at your handle, and then all these insights come out about, oh, your strategy seems to be based around this and this and this. Have you thought about trying that instead? Why are you going in this direction? And then, in line with the other things that I brought up in the beginning about the size of the community, the cadence of your messaging, the kind of your messaging, your brand positioning, things like that. When you have all these insights with people, they now think you're serious, and it sets you apart. Because all the other people who are charging this for 6 posts, that for 10 posts, you just sit down and then you do the calculation, and at the end of the day, it comes down to 583 naira per post, or 500 naira per post, or 600 naira per post. And really, that's all you're reducing yourselves to. But if you're having these kinds of conversations with business insights, all of a sudden, you can't be reduced just to 500 naira per post, even if in essence that's what it is that you're offering. Because your value now looks like a whole lot more because you have business insights to back it up. So there's a lot more to drumming up businesses than to send out messages that say, do you need a social media manager? Do you need an XYZ to help with ABC? See, prospecting and looking for potential customers, whether in person, walking up to people, or whether sending messages, is an art. Slow down with your messaging. Learn the art and get more effective at it. And if you do that, then you're not going to have to send so many messages in the future. I mean, isn't it tiring waking up today to figure out who are the 100 people that I can blast messages today? And then wake up tomorrow, who are the 100 people that I can blast messages to tomorrow? And then the day after. And then each time you're blasting 100 messages, being ignored by 98. One person asks a question that you're not prepared for, so you don't answer. And then the other person that says yes, you send the cut and paste response of 3,500 for 6 posts or whatever. And then they look at all the other people that have sent them messages, they do the math, and then it's 200 naira per post or 500 naira per post. And then they just think you all are just a bunch of jokers. And they decide, you know what, let me just do this thing myself rather than paying 500 naira per post, because that's all the value that they see that you provide. So learn the art and get more effective at it so you don't have to keep playing this game every day. It's very tiring. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. So for those of you who are going to continue to send out messages like this, my heart goes out to you. I'm with you all, and I give you guys props because it's all we have to do to drum up businesses. So we're together in this business. We're together in this journey of business and entrepreneurship. But just remember that there's an art. Learn the art and get more effective. Get some business insights. Stop commoditizing yourself and stop reducing yourself to 500 naira per post. And wedding photographers do the same thing too. You blast out the messages and the bride and groom just figure, oh, okay, it looks